Good morning. Good morning, the city of Newark and everyone who has joined us for this How to Apply session for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program here in the city of Newark. I am Allison Ladd, the Deputy Mayor for Economic and Housing Development for the city of Newark. And on behalf of Mayor Raj J. Baraka, we welcome you to this How to Apply session. This webinar today will help you understand as property owners how you can pre-register for up to $14 million that's available in this emergency rental assistance program. As many of you may know, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program is part of a larger package of Newark economic equitable recovery activities that Mayor Baraka is implementing over this summer. We really want to help our Newark residents be able to recover from the damage that was done and we've all experienced from COVID-19. We know that the residents and property owners in Newark, along with our small businesses, have especially suffered during this time. And Mayor Baraka wants to do everything in his power to help you recover. So today, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program will provide help for approximately 4,000 people and in our city of Newark. Because you have not been able to pay rent due to COVID-19 and possible negative impact by unemployment or other situations that have financially impacted your household's income. So as many of you may remember, over the last year, the mayor has already launched programs to help with rental assistance. And already to date, we've helped over 1,900 households. So we're looking to help even more through this new program with additional funding from the U.S. Treasury that we're really grateful to have in our city. You'll hear more about the facts today, but the emergency rental assistance will pay for up to 12 months of assistance of unpaid back rent going back to March of 2020. So we can go back to March of 2020. We can help the residents who may not have been able to pay rent since over a year ago, and we'll be working to help you today so that you can help stay housed and in our city and continue to live as residents in our city of Newark. You're going to hear a lot today about how to walk through the pre-registration and how the landlords can access the information so they can pre-register and so that we can all work together to find a way to provide the dollars more quickly and more efficiently to those that need it. The website that's been created, newarkcovid19.com, has a special link for you to be able to access the program's registration portal. And it's available also not only in English, but Spanish and Portuguese. And so we want all of our residents to know that regardless of language spoken, that we're here to provide some assistance. So if you need more, feel free to ask us, and we will also have community-based organizations that can help walk through the application with you as well. So I think that in closing, I just wanted to again welcome you on behalf of Mayor Raj J. Baraka to this How to Apply session for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program that'll provide $14 million to our residents that need assistance to pay their rent since March of 2020. I'm going to introduce you to Gerard Crowder, who's the manager of the Office of Affordable and Sustainable Housing in our Economic and Housing Development Department. And he's going to be able to talk you through the website and the how to apply process that you're going to hear more about. And finally, you'll have additional assistance from our Newark People's Assembly. Jennifer Fana has joined us today. We're so grateful for everything that the Newark People's Assembly does to help keep us in the neighborhood despite COVID-19. So while we may not be in person, we're still here to try to do all that we can to help our residents and our businesses recover from this pandemic. So great to see everybody. Looking forward to the questions and answers, and wishing you all a great day. So I'm going to turn it over to Gerard, and he's going to take it from here. So have a great session. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Allison Ladd. We're certainly grateful to be here this morning. It's an exciting opportunity. We know that the last year and a half has been a challenge for many of us across the country, but especially here in Newark. And so now we're just excited to be able to bring to you another round of rental assistance. Just want to say just a couple things before we jump right into the application process, because we want to make sure that all the landlords who are pre-registering are familiar and you get your questions answered. As a goal of this is to facilitate as much relief to Newark residents and in turn landlords as possible. We just want to just reiterate, the fact that this whole process, the spirit of this process is really to connect those who need it most with dollars. And so this process was designed with meeting that goal. And so we're excited to be here this morning and we want to begin to walk through. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to get the information you need, as well as complete applications. And then after that, we will allow you, of course, to ask questions. I just do want to reiterate the fact that there will be another how-to session, which will be specifically for tenants. And so what you'll see today will be focused on landlords and the pre-registration process. This process is made available 1 week prior to the tenant application opening in order to better facilitate payments to landlords. Payments to landlords is the preference in the process. However, this latest round of emergency rental assistance, based on the federal rules, does allow direct payment to tenants if necessary. However, we'd like to facilitate payments to landlords in order to ensure housing stability. And so with that being said, I am going to take us all to the NewarkCovid19.com website. Hopefully, everyone who was a part of this session knows by now that NewarkCovid19.com is your one-stop shop for all things that are COVID-19 related as far as the city is concerned. A variety of resources and a number of areas, crucial areas. This is all designed to making sure that we can get information out in the most efficient way possible. So if you'll go to NewarkCovid19.com landing page, you will see a banner, information about Mayor Baraka's Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And so clicking on this banner will provide you with all the information you will need regarding emergency rental assistance for landlords as well as tenants. Again, a one-stop shop. And so again, I just want to point out the fact that we will be focusing mainly on landlord pre-registration during this session, and that there will be a how to apply session for tenants to apply for emergency rental assistance on Monday, July 26th at 7 p.m. Tenant applications also will open on Monday, July 26th at 9 a.m. And so again, the focus of this will be our landlord pre-registration. Because landlord pre-registration opened just this Monday, July 19th, landlord pre-registration is a priority, and so therefore you see prominently displayed here at the top, landlord pre-registration. Now, before we click on that link, what I want to do is just review just some of the information here that can answer most of your questions, if not all, and is a resource that will remain active for some time to come. So both during this week as well as the entire emergency rental assistance program round 3. So here you can find key dates and other information, who will be eligible, and then of course, extremely important, frequently asked questions. And so the first tab would be for landlord frequently asked questions, which has a variety of information we think is very much thorough, but we would certainly like to see if there are any questions that come in that may not have been covered. One of the things that we want you all to know is that this is an organic process. It's adaptive, it's fluid. And so therefore, as important information becomes available, we want to make sure that we get to you as soon as possible. So information can and will be updated on this website. Also, what should be noted is that this session is being recorded and will also be available on this website. So if I scroll back up to the top, here's a landlord pre-registration tab very prominently at the top of the page, which takes us to the City of Newark Emergency Rental Assistance Program landing page. Here you will see a notice confirming that you are in fact at the correct page. Here at this page, you will see 4 areas at the bottom. The first one has program details. What this area does is it provides the same information available on the COVID-19.com website. You'll also see that the Apply as a Renter section is also available, which provides the opportunity for renters to apply come Monday, July 26th at 9 a.m. There's a Get Help section here, which will provide information in terms of how landlords and come tenants on Monday can get assistance. Currently, there's a COVID-19.com website that's the resource, in addition to a call center. So this round of emergency rental assistance currently has a call center where applicants, in this case tenants during this week, can get assistance with completing the pre-registration process. So as you can see very prominently, 866-484-9033. The call center staff to take your questions as well as assist you with the application process. So the same way we're engaging in this walkthrough, you can call the call center in order to get the same type of assistance one-on-one. And then of course, for key details about our program, this link will take you back to COVID-19.com, of course, because that is the main page for our resources. Going back a page, now we go to registering as a landlord. Again, this week exclusively provides landlords the opportunity to go in and pre-register. Before going in, I just will mention a number of key points. When landlords go in and pre-register, they will not find matching tenant information before the tenant application portal opens next Monday. As tenants apply and those addresses are matched with the information submitted by landlords, then completed applications can then be awarded. So we'll click on register now for landlords. Just want to show here at the top is a banner, and I want to review just a couple of very key points that you'll see at the top of every page. It's just a reminder this is the 3rd round, and that applicants whose household incomes are at or below 80% of the area median income are eligible. And the fact that tenants will be able to begin filling out applications on Monday, July 26th. The applications will remain open for both landlords and tenants through September 10th. So although this week there was a launch of landlord applications, that does not mean that opportunity closes at the end of this week. It remains open in tandem with the tenant application process through September 10th. A very important notice, both for landlords and for tenants, and that is that the City of Newark has engaged partners in order to assist with this process, and that this application process is free, right? So each person has an opportunity to receive one-on-one application assistance. For tenants, for landlords, it would be at the ERAP call center. And again, this is a free service, so no one should be paying in order to receive help with this. So again, you currently have 2 resources, the call center, as well as for all information, COVID-19.com. And again, the past year and a half has been an unprecedented challenge. We want to make sure that both tenants and landlords are aware of what's allowable and what isn't. If If you feel as though you have been the victim of any illegal eviction activity, as there has been a moratorium, which means that tenants cannot be evicted for lack of payment of rent, then you should call the Newark Police, the main number, which is listed here. And then you can also find resources at our Office of Tenant Legal Services. So again, this banner will remain for each one of the pages. What we'll want to do now is to actually begin the process. So if you're a landlord and you are just arriving at the pre-registration page, you have not created an account, then you'll need to do so. You'll be able to do so by clicking on the Register tab in order to create an account. What you'll do on this page is enter your email address, as I'm doing here. And then you'll create a username. So in this case, I'll be City Tester 2, fictitious name, of course. And I will create a password and then confirm that password. Now I simply click register. All right, so I'm actually going to enter another email address. Should not be taken. What's important to note about this entire process is that it's okay if you don't enter in all the correct information at one time. You can always go back and correct things. First email address entered will be there, and I'm going to input my name. Of course, every field that you see with a red asterisk is a required field. And so now my first name is City, last name Tester 2. I'm going to confirm my email is there correctly. City of Newark. And are you a landlord? Extremely important question, because if not, you should not be pre-registering or in this system. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we click yes. I'm going to go to my preferred language, which is default is English. I'm going to select, and then I'm going to update. Perfect. So what should happen now is I would have received an email confirming that I'm registered. And then what I'll do is I will check that email and I will click the link. So I'll stop sharing for a second. I'll go to that email, which typically you will receive within 30 seconds. Here's what the email looks like. Your account requires confirmation. Please click the following link to complete the registration. Excuse me. And then you click the complete registration. This takes us back to this page, and it says that your email has been confirmed successfully. Now in the system as a landlord. I'm going to stop sharing here so you can see that screen. and you're confirmed. Your email has been confirmed successfully. Now what's important to do is to begin inputting your information. And so as you take a look at the top, again, there's the home page, which also allows you, this banner also allows you to go directly to the program details, again, which provides you with the information, the parameters, the rules, and the details. Landlord Dashboard, if you need help, the call center number, and the NewarkCovid19.com webpage again. And if you notice here, my name is here, City Tester. So I now have a profile as a result of having just entered in my information. So I can go to my profile information as well as sign out once I'm done. What I want to do is I want to go to Landlord Dashboard. Landlord Dashboard is my one-stop shop for everything that I'll have to enter. And so what I want to do is to confirm participation. This is extremely important. In order for me to move forward with the pre-registration process as a landlord, it's very important for me to note that there are some things that I will need to agree with in terms of my participation. The whole point of this, again, is to ensure housing stability for our most vulnerable tenants who've been impacted by COVID and unable to pay their rent. And so what we want to do is click on the confirm participation button, which will then allow us to generate a landlord agreement. We'll take a look at what those terms are. This message appears. It's very important for you to note that the default is on no, and that you will need to click yes. And what this is telling us is that you agree to comply with the online or electronic signature process for documents. And so once you've agreed to do that, you can click submit. Just a quick note, this online electronic process is intended to provide convenience. We know that there has been the need and continues to be the need for social distancing given the pandemic. And so as a means of enabling our landlords and tenants to submit applications for relief, this medium is provided. And so whether you have a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, or even your cell phone, this process is made easy through the use of those devices in the system. So once I agree, I click submit. This is processing. So what I will need to do next is to go to my email again. Documents are typically received within less than 30 seconds. And I'm going to stop sharing so that we can now see what that looks like in my email. You'll get an email from DocuSign. Again, my name is here, City Tester 2, so I know it's for me. And I want to review the document. I'm going to show you what that looks like in 1 second. All right. And so once you click on the link, in order to access the document, you'll see this page. It's very important to note. Again, this is a DocuSign process. It allows for you to be able to complete documents without having to print up in the event you don't have access to a printer, without actually having to physically sign and upload documents. If you need assistance with this process, which is typically straightforward, but we want to make sure that you have the support you need. Here on the right side are other actions, and there are a variety of resources here questions that can be answered. And again, you always have the call center to assist. But for the purpose of this document, we're going to go over and agree to use the electronic records and signature process provided. We click on this box, which then enables us to click continue. Now that we have done that, we can see the actual document itself. A couple things that I want to point out. I'm not going to read the document verbatim. It will be, it's there in the system for you to access, but I just want to briefly go over some of the more important points. Of course, this is an overview. It also provides a lot of the details in terms of what governs this emergency rental assistance program, both federal, state, and local laws and guidelines. It defines the program, talks about award and payment. Just a reminder, just like you'll be able to find on newcovid19.com and wherever you see the frequently asked questions, is that funds can be received retro to March 13th of 2022. All right. Of course, you will make several attestations, be reminded of the award period, the fact that awards can be made through the application process of September 10th, indemnification, of course, some of the governing laws and compliance rules, all for your review. This is a 2-page document, so as we near the end of the 2 pages, I really want to point out the additional terms which are extremely important. Again, this is to ensure that in good faith there is relief to tenants and indirectly, of course, landlords. And so we want to take this time as an opportunity to encourage landlords and tenants to communicate so that this process can be as efficient and effective as possible. If you take a look at the first note here, it says, as a landlord, you will work with your tenants in good faith to assist and participate in the program and application process. So again, this is a 2-part process, which calls upon hopefully cooperation with tenants and landlords. And we wanted to explicitly make sure that we mention this as a point because it will be important throughout this process. Of course, you'll attest to the truthfulness and the completeness of what you're providing. The fact that these award funds will be applied to past due accounts of tenants. We'll also agree to keep these records for at least up to 5 years in the event of an audit. That you shall not evict tenants for non-payments. You've been notified as part of this program that the tenant was approved for payment, covering all the tenant's arrears, right? It's extremely important. The whole point is to ensure housing stability. And of course, you understand that the total funding is subject to a number of variables, of course, eligibility, of course, the availability of funds, and of course, that the tenant also meets all the necessary criteria. This is a very important point, the last point here, and that is that you understand that if you do not agree to the terms and conditions, right, then payments for rental arrears may be directed to your tenants. You will not be notified when your tenants receive those payments. It's a very important point that I want to stop here and make very briefly. Again, this process works much better. It's ideal when both landlords and tenants participate. It is not a complete requirement for landlords to agree to this in order for tenants to receive payment. The federal government has recognized some of the difficulties in connecting with landlords and still wants to be able to provide relief to tenants. And so therefore, tenants can apply and get relief rental awards, even if landlords do not. However, in order for a landlord to receive payment, a tenant must apply. And so landlords cannot get an award without tenants applying, whereas tenants can get relief without landlords registering. However, the priority and the strong preference is for landlords to pre-register, which is why I'm glad you all are joining us, because that is your intent. You're just not doing that. So the next thing we will do is, as long as we agree with these terms, we will click on sign. This will produce the image that you're seeing, which is my electronic signature. I will then click adopt and sign. I can see my signature, printed name electronically, and the date. And then what I do is I go up to the yellow finish box and I click that box. Now, this box enables me to do a couple things. One is I can print it if I like, or I can simply download it and save it. You can click continue. Even if you don't choose either one of those options, note though, that the document will be emailed to you automatically upon you clicking the finish button. And actually mine already has been emailed to me. And so you'll get notification that your document has been received and that you're all done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the application. Now that I've confirmed my participation, I've signed the landlord agreement, and now I'm going to update payment information, right? This is extremely important, right? So when we do that, as we can see, my full name is there, City Tester 2. What I want to make sure that I put is the name that's on the payment account, right? So my financial institution. What is the name listed on my financial institution? In my case, I'm going to list City Tester 2. Now, as a landlord, you may do business under a business name. That business name may be listed on your bank account. If that is the case, then that is the name that you will enter in this section. You will then enter the name of the bank. In this case, Newark First Bank. I will then input my routing information, which is typically a 9-digit number. I will confirm that. I don't mind showing you my information, because I don't think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is actually anyone's any bank's routing number. And then the specific account, which in this case would be 10 digits. Now, it's important to note that our preferred method of payment is via ACH electronic payments. Hopefully it's your preferred method of payment as well, because it is the quickest. Again, we want to make sure that we get funds out the door as quickly as possible, and payments made via ACH enable that to happen. As we move down farther, we want to make sure that we enter a remittance street address, right? And so that is the address where any payments will be made. In this case, my address will be 321 Main Street. Pardon me, wrong field. And then I will submit. Which takes me back to the Landlord Dashboard. Next item, and as you can see, there are actually only 2 items left, is tax information. It's very important that you submit a IRS form W-9, and we'll show you exactly how to do that. So in this case, if you are simply a landlord and you do business as an individual, then that is fine. On your IRS W-9 form, and you can obtain one quickly and easily, one that's fillable online within seconds by going to the IRS.gov website. And on that W-9 form, you would simply enter your social security number. All right, so it just so happens in this case, wait, how about I do this? Let's go 987-654-321. Right? In the event that you have an actual taxpayer identification number, as you are a landlord, and you're doing business under a business entity, which would be listed on your W-9, you would list that number instead of your social security number. And then the name on that document. In this case, I'm doing business. I'm a landlord. I'm using my personal information, not under a business. And so what I'll then do is I will enter the name that's listed on the W-9 form, and I will click submit. What this will then do is now enable me to upload my form W-9. So I just want to add a very quick and important note at this point in the process. If there are any documents, any information that you're unsure of and you need time, again, this portal is open through September 10th, and you have the opportunity to come back and revisit once you've registered and to pick up from where you've left off or to make changes, all right? So in the event that you do not have everything you need at the time of application, although we strongly recommend that you get those documents, and those documents, again, they are available online. This website, when you first begin, talks about the items that you will need as a landlord. This information is also available, again, on our NewarkCovid19.com website. So what I'm going to do is, because I've already prepared my form W-9, City 2 Tester FW9, I'm going to upload it. Now, what's extremely important to note as well, again, we want to facilitate payments, is that whether you're using a desktop or a laptop or a tablet or a smartphone, you can take photographs using that smartphone or tablet of the documents in order to upload them, right? Again, this is a matter of convenience. We want to make sure that this process is as seamless as possible. Now that I have uploaded that document, which I can see here because under document name, I see it's listed, I now click submit. Takes me where? Back to the Landlord Dashboard. So this is my one-stop shop for everything I'm submitting. And finally, as a landlord, I can now submit the property addresses in which I'm seeking a payment for a back rent. And so what I do is I go to the tab on the right, I click add a property address. Now, what's important to note is that if you own multiple units that you are seeking a payment for, then you can add each one of those units specifically. So in this case, the property name, I'm just going to put in 123 Main Street. Property type. This is important because I want you to see the options: entire multi-unit building, individual unit in a multi-unit building, or single family home or townhouse. And so what I'm going to select is individual unit in a multi-unit building. Remember, I enter my taxpayer ID, the previous step in the process, which should already be listed. For my convenience, I simply click select. That populates in that field, so I don't have to type out 987-654-321 again. This next question is important. So this question is this property homesteaded, right? Which means, is this property your primary residence? We should be really specific. Is this unit your primary residence as a landlord? Because you would not be able to receive funding if you are dwelling in the same unit as a tenant who is requesting rent relief. Again, It's not necessarily the same building or same property, but the same unit. And so what I want to make sure that I confirm is that no, it's not, right? I do not live in the unit in which I'm seeking a rent payment, right? Entering the location, Main Street. There is a unit. I'm going to enter that unit. In this case, we'll say unit 1. And then we'll be able to take a look at all the information here. The last question they're going to ask you, which is extremely important, it should be very much obvious, is are you the property owner? And as this should be, you click yes. And then what we were able to do is to submit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh this page. All right, so given that as a landlord, if you have already actually done this pre-registration process, what you'll see is that there are no applications in the system. Why? Because tenants have not, the application period has not opened for tenants yet. And so you'll probably see this message. Once tenants have submitted an application beginning next week, and you are a landlord who is then entering this pre-registration during that period, give me a second here. Just give me a second. I did say it could take up to 30 seconds, right? This may not all be instant. We'll just give it a couple seconds. And as we do so, I do just want to reiterate a few points. And that is, again, this period is open, currently open for landlord pre-registration only. This is the pre-registration section of the portal that should only be accessed by landlords, property owners, in order to facilitate speedy payments. Once applicants enter the information to the system. And so what I'm showing you now, again, I just showed you that I just entered the property address, and any landlord who has done pre-registration and will be doing pre-registration through this week, as tenants have not been able to apply yet, will see the previous message that was on my screen, which says that there are no applications in the system. However, if you are registering, entering your information, after a tenant has entered an application for rental assistance, then you will see this, applications, right? And those applications will then populate. So in this case, my application, which I already have in the system, of course, is for 123 Main Street. If we take a look at the right side of this, we'll see the blue actions box. So what will need to happen is this. This is extremely important, is because we want to be very specific in terms of what the relief is. And so what you will do is you will then click on this link, which is blank template here, right? Because what we're going to do as a final step is attach a ledger, which is what this option is here. And so if we click on attach ledger, this is what we'll see. Now, if you give me 1 second, because I want to make sure that we make this as efficient as possible. what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a ledger that's somewhat pre-populated. All right. So you will be able to type into the document. Again, you don't need to print it out, to write on it, to physically sign it. What you'll have is the rental ledger that you will be able to actually input information. So in this case, it's tenant and property information. Again, I'm naming this my tenant, John Tenant, 123 Main Street, Unit 1. Ask for phone number, city and zip code, of course. Just call something that should be 05. And again, great thing about if you enter anything incorrectly or you need to make changes or updates, you can always do so in these documents in the system. All right. You'll also want to make sure that you provide a full list of tenants in the unit if the rental agreement does not provide that. What's important here is that some program details are provided. So we just want to make sure that I highlight that in this section here, and that what is eligible for payment. In this case, it is only rent. So rent is what will be what landlords can be compensated for, not late fees, not security deposits, not utilities, but rent. Now I left these fields blank because these are extremely important. If for whatever reason you don't fill in any other part of this document, we want to make sure that you input exactly the rent that you are seeking relief for, what you are owed. And we want to be specific, all right? Given that these funds can, again, provide rent retroactive 12 months, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're very specific. And so we want to provide a ledger. Each landlord provides a ledger. And so in this case, for example, let's say the total amount due, we're going to say is $12,000. And so what I'm seeking relief for, if we take a look at the months, let's say I'm going to select March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, and February, right? That accounts for 12 months. In this case, I'm going to list 1,000 per month. Of course, these are nice even numbers. However, as a landlord, you will do your accounting and make sure that you enter the accurate amounts that are due for each month of relief that you're seeking. And what this allows us to do is to take a look at the months in which you are seeking relief. The tenant will be required to provide information in terms of how many months back they're seeking relief and in what amount. And we want to make sure that what the landlord submits and what the tenant submits are in alignment. So that's why this is extremely important. And of course, at the end, I will enter a landlord and property information. So once I am done with that, stop sharing. We will go to the dashboard in 1 second. So that then after I've completed it, I can then upload it to the system. Now that I've completed it, what I can do is I can then click Attach Ledger. Which then allows me to do so. Now, we're going to disregard the first one there. There's a rental ledger already there, but the one that I just updated is rental ledger tester 2. Now, what you're going to do is, again, the same way you entered the address and the unit for each unit you are seeking relief for, you're going to make sure that you complete a ledger for each one of those units, right? Because each one of those, again, is a separate unit, and in our accounting, in terms of the rent award, we want to make sure that we are accurate and that we capture all of the properties in which you are seeking relief. Once that is done, I see them listed and I click close. All right. I'm now done. I'm registered as a landlord within the system. Again, depending upon the status of tenant applications, I can go into this account from time to time and check and determine what of my properties, if any, are in the system. In addition to that, I will also receive notifications via email. Anytime a tenant submits an application for that specific property, that specific unit, then as a landlord, you will receive an email notification, which then prompts you to either register as a landlord if you have not, again, because the tenant will be providing your contact information and email address, or simply to go into the account that you've already collected, that you've already created, and update any information that will be necessary for that particular unit. And so, again, we have two primary screens in which you'll be entering information: the registration screen and the all-important Landlord Dashboard. Once you're done, you can go to your account name, and again, you can sign up. And so, anytime you return to this, you would simply just enter your username and password, and then, again, access your account. Again, the system is very flexible. Again, it enables you to make mistakes and go back and correct them, and also to update information as well as provide additional information as is necessary. And so, with that being said, I'd like to go back to the all-important City of Newark COVID-19.com screen. Again, currently, the Landlord PreRegistration link is here, and come Monday morning, July 26th at 9 a.m., so will the tenant application link be available at this site. Again, this is a one-stop shop for all things emergency rental assistance. And so I hope this was helpful. And what we're going to do at this point is we're going to take some questions. Before we do, I just want to remind everyone that all the information mentioned here is listed again at this website, newarkcovid19.com. And there's also the call center in which landlords can access, all right? And so that number and information is right here, 866-484-9033. You'll see this located in a number of places, both on the Emergency Rental Assistance portal as well as newarkcovid19.com website. And with that being said, I hope this was helpful, and I'm going to stop sharing. And what we're going to do now is we are going to allow residents, landlords, the opportunity to engage in a Q&A. Of course, this would not be an effective event without our friends at Newark People's Assembly. And so what I'd like to do at this point is to introduce Jennifer Fana of the People's Assembly and let her take it from here. Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Gerard. Very insightful session. I'm very grateful that you took the time to present us with the thorough information. And so I also want to thank our colleague Dwayne Middleton, who has been actively answering some of those concerns, because we do have both tenants and landlords in attendance today. And so I want to start with one of the questions, and I tried my best to take them down. And this is a scenario that was presented by one of our residents. And he states, I own a property in Newark, tenants are paid up. It's the commercial daycare that owns 10 months. What can I do?
Yeah, so this relief is for residential properties. We will, that's an interesting question. I know, again, as we look to provide relief to those who've been impacted through COVID-19, it is certainly something that we can consider and talk about. As you know, there are emergent American Rescue Plan dollars, and the mayor and this administration has been working hard to make sure that we provide the relief necessary to our residents and our businesses. So this sounds like one that I'm going to have to defer on. Again, try to get some information on. At some point in the future, we may be able to provide an option. But unfortunately, for this session, well, fortunately for those in residential properties, but unfortunately for those who may have questions about commercial properties, this relief is only for residential properties.
Thank you so much. That is clarifying information.
Yeah, and I would also say, I appreciate, Jennifer, you telling me how many tenants are in the queue as well. I just want to reiterate that come Monday, we will have a completely separate session for tenants. Some of this information may overlap, and so therefore I have no problems answering it. But in the amount of time that we have left, the focus will be on landlords. I will, now and until it's no longer there, I will tout the NewarkCovid19.com website page for questions regarding tenancy. And so, again, we'll look to focus as much as we can on the landlord questions, the amount of time that we have, unless they overlap with the tenant questions. But we do look forward to providing that full space of time on Monday in order to focus specifically on tenants, as we know that there's a huge demand and a huge need to get information. So.
Perfect. So that is helpful for me. And so now I'll ask one of the questions that we have in our Zoom room. And the attendee asked, is it okay that property is in Newark, but landlord lives outside of the city of Newark?
Yes. So as long as the properties, the units where rental relief is sought is in Newark, then yes, that is absolutely correct. So it's not necessarily where the landlord lives, and I hope I didn't create a little confusion by having a Main Street address as a landlord, as well as a Main Street address for the unit in which I'm seeking a relief for. But as long as the unit itself is within the city of Newark, because that is considered a Newark address. Again, we're talking about residential properties. So that is correct.
Thank you. Another landlord questions, is there a cap for landlords, a max of units that I own or any landlord can register?
Yeah, so any landlord whose tenants have not paid rent retro to March 13th at any point during that time, and I do want to add this caveat as well, but who has not already received federal assistance, right? Because this is not just the first round of emergency rental assistance. So if you're a landlord and you are seeking relief for months that have not already been covered by other federal programs, whether there's one through the city of Newark or whether it was the county or state emergency rental assistance programs. And I want to make sure that that's clear as well, because this is not the only one, and sometimes there's confusion. Then you can go ahead and register as a landlord. Again, the key part is that the tenants of those units then go in and apply, because as a landlord, the only way you would be able to access relief is if tenants applied in the system, and then that information is matched with what you submit as a landlord, as we just saw.
Excellent. Next question. Good afternoon. My apologies if I missed this part, but I wanted to ask if this relief includes HUD/subsidized rental properties.
Sorry about that. I'm going to get it right with the mute button. So yes, that is correct. The first two rounds did not necessarily allow that. This round will. Keep in mind, you do have relief options. If you're a tenant with that profile. And so typically there is a portion of the rent that you are responsible for. And so that, yes, you would be allowed to seek relief for that portion of it. I will strongly suggest that if you are receiving a subsidy, that you reach out to the Newark Housing Authority, all right, assuming you're a Newark resident, which is what this is exclusively for, then the Newark Housing Authority would be the authority that you would contact, because then you could have the amount adjusted in which you are required to pay. And so if you've been impacted by COVID, it's impacted the amount of income that you have, which has made it difficult in order for you to meet the portion of the rent that you are supposed to pay. You can also get relief through contacting the Newark Housing Authority so that you can have those amounts adjusted. And then what that means is that you may be able to, you may be allowed to pay a lesser amount out of pocket, whereas HUD and the, of course, the Newark Housing Authorities under HUD will then just pay a larger amount to the landlord in order to cover the rent that you're unable to cover. So yes, and thank you for that question.
Thank you so much. What if my tenant is moving and will not be able to fill out the tenant portion?
I'm not sure why the tenant moving would not, make them available to fill in the tenant portion. I will just say that in order for landlords to receive payment, the tenant must submit an application, right? This is how we ensure that payments to landlords are for actual tenants, and that we can be assured that the information is accurate. And so a tenant must seek relief. The landlord, again, the whole purpose of this is to expedite payments. And so landlords do have some degree of control in terms of how quickly the process goes by inputting the information. But a tenant must submit an application in order for there to be rental assistance awarded. We hope that this is, I'm not sure about the caveat about them moving. I'm not sure what the challenges or barriers might be, but just as if you were a landlord, you could be anywhere in the world that has internet access, I imagine, and complete this application. You do not have to live in Newark nor be located in Newark when completing the application. The same would go for a tenant.
Thank you so much. This user presented a scenario and they stated, whatever happened to the first two rounds of emergency assistance? My tenants applied but did not receive no response to date.
So that's a great question. I'm not able to, I mean, it's a pretty generic question. I don't know like who the landlord is, who the tenants are, what the circumstances are, whether or not they were rejected for relief. I'm not sure. But what I would recommend is that they reach out to the Newark Housing Authority, who was the city partner who administered those first two rounds of rental assistance. So generically speaking, of course, I can't address that, but the Newark Housing Authority was charged with administering that. And so it could be a number of variables. We'll just have to make that determination based on specifically who the tenants are and who the landlord is in order to have that question addressed.
Thank you. And I know that over the application, you explained that the amount of months that can be covered. This specific question is, again, around that process.
Right.
It states, do you all cover more than 1 month?
That is correct. Great question. In the earlier rounds, the first 2 rounds, we were able to disperse funds based on the amount of funds we had and the fact that no one knew how long this pandemic was going to last, right? Now that we're well into it, a year and a half later, this latest round, the U.S. Treasury Department, which is the source of funds, has allowed for there to be up to 12 months of back rent. Right. And so, again, the point of this is to help residents achieve some level of housing stability. Right. We know that now, a year and a half into this pandemic, if you received a 1 month award from us or a 2 month award from us, many months have gone by. If you've not been able, if you've still been impacted by the pandemic and unable to establish enough income to pay rent, then you are severely behind. And so, in recognition of that, here in July of 2021, of a pandemic that began March of 2020, these round of funds are designed, again, in order to provide up to 12 months in back rent. And so, yes, beyond 1 month, beyond 2 months, up to 12 months.
Excellent. And so the same user wanted to know, so should my tenant apply for the 3rd round and I pre-register for round 3? The first 2 rounds did not involve the landlord.
Wait, I'm unclear on that.
So I'm not sure what the first process was. So they're saying if they should apply for this 3rd round, and the landlord, who is the person speaking, should they pre-register to ensure that the tenant receives funding?
Yes. So if you are a landlord and you have tenants, again, who have not been able to pay rent due to the impact of COVID-19, then you should absolutely pre-register. Again, in order for you to receive payment, the tenant would then need to register. Again, a landlord completing the pre-registration process alone will not lead to an award, but a landlord who completes the pre-registration process and a tenant who completes the application is the quickest way for a landlord to receive payment. So I highly recommend that landlord goes in and they pre-register, which is why we provided this period for landlord pre-registration exclusively. Again, the tenants can then go in and begin to apply for applications beginning next Monday on July 26th. During the walkthrough I just did, I wanted to show you 2 scenarios. And the first one was when I came to the end of the application and a tenant had not submitted the application yet, which would be the case for any landlords who are pre-registering during this period, because tenants are not allowed to submit applications until next week. So any landlord submitting pre-registration will see that first notice that I saw, that there are no addresses or applications in the system, because that is what you'll see prior to tenants being allowed to submit an application. In the second scenario, right, I mean, it took a second and all because we wanted to go back and work some things out and make sure that landlords get to see what it will look like in the event that your tenants are in the system. When you pre-register, they were able to see those tenants, those units, those addresses in the system. And so therefore those units at that point were then able to be matched, right? Because the whole point having landlords and tenants is to be able to match them, make sure the information aligns in order to expedite a payment. And again, once that landlord goes in and sees that that specific unit or units are in the system, they can then go ahead and fill in a ledger for the specific amounts over the up to 12-month period.
Thank you, Gerard. And I just have to reiterate to our attendees that this session is specifically for landlords. We are getting a lot of questions from the tenant perspective, and I haven't seen any questions from the landlord perspective. So is it okay if I ask you some of the questions from the tenant perspective?
Yes, we can go into those. Absolutely. I'll seek to answer what I can. I'm sure there may be some scenarios too. One of the things that engaging the public in this matter enables us to do is kind of get a sense of what are some of the circumstances that tenants are currently under. And again, this allows us to take into consideration and to determine if there's any relief, anything that we can do, anything that we might be able to create or craft in the future. I just want to reiterate to everyone, I've seen a lot of comments on social media regarding this program in previous rounds and a number of initiatives that the city is rolling out. I just want to make sure that I reiterate in answering the question, which is a common one, why is it that this is allowable and this isn't? We always have to consider the source. And the source of these funds are federal funds. And so therefore the federal government outlines what these funds can be used for, as well as what we will need in order to provide by way of reporting. And so we have to provide an accounting for every dollar that is dispersed. Again, we have to make sure that we disperse it in a way that is consistent and does not conflict with the rules of the source. And in this case is the federal government, in this case being the US Treasury. So I just wanted to put that out there because I know there are a lot of questions in terms of how and why. And in most cases, it's because that's what we're allowed to do. So on with the tenant questions.
Well, now I have a landlord question. And
okay, great. Yeah, let's prioritize those. So thank you, great.
Yes, so landlord question. In a situation where a tenant was subsidized, but failed to recertify and is therefore no longer getting subsidy, would the landlord be able to apply for the entire market rent? And would the tenant be eligible for assistance for the total owed?
Yeah, so I mean, as we think about the spirit of these funds and the fact that although we are certainly glad to have the 14 million that we're able to disperse, we want to be able to provide relief to as many residents as landlords as we possibly can. So we strongly urge landlords to pursue whatever avenues they can via the Newark Housing Authority in order to, again, be made whole. In the event they are not able to, they can certainly go ahead and look to apply. Again, the spirit of this is to provide as much relief to as many Newark residents and landlords as possible. And so, you know, again, if there are other avenues that a landlord or a tenant could explore in order to be able to provide that relief, we strongly urge them to do so. And if not, certainly they can go ahead and apply.
Thank you. So the previous landlord wanted to clarify their statement. If the tenants apply for the first 2 rounds and receive no response, should they apply for the 3rd round?
So I would say yes. All right. The first 2 rounds covered a certain period. Again, the first 2 rounds were last summer and the end of last year, respectively. Beginning of this year, respectively. So those were for 2 different periods. We want to make sure that we provide relief for the periods that would not have been covered. And so therefore, again, one of the things that we want to make sure is that there's no duplication of funds, right? So if you're a landlord and tenant and you received relief from our emergency rental assistance programs that covered a certain month or time period, that of course we would not be providing relief because you would have already received relief. We also are not going to be providing relief if you received the federal funds from other sources, which includes county and also state. Hope that answers that.
All right, so now we're going to move to the tenant's perspective because I don't see any more landlord perspective questions.
Okay.
And this is the question I'm going to ask is a very repeated question. If the landlord does not register, how would the tenant receive the assistance?
Right. So yes, so tenants may receive rental assistance without landlords registering. It's just that landlords wouldn't be able to receive assistance without tenants applying. And so if you are a tenant and you are in need of this assistance and you are eligible, then you can apply. Our preference and what facilitates the process allows us to expedite payments to landlords is when landlords register as well. In the event that landlords fail to register, and with our vendor, who is assisting us in administering this round of emergency rental assistance. There will be at least three attempts to contact landlords on behalf of tenants who have applied. Again, every time that a tenant applies in the system, a communication, an email will be sent to the landlord notifying them that a tenant application has been submitted into the system, asking then the landlord to submit their information to the pre-registration process so that they can be matched with that tenant and a quick payment can be issued. If in the event that landlords do not respond, even after we've been proactive and made a number of attempts to reach them, then payments can be made directly to tenants. Landlords would not necessarily be notified, but again, tenants will be required to use that money for its intended purpose. Again, this is in response to what we've seen in previous rounds. I just want to quickly reiterate that last year and a half has been unprecedented. We didn't know what to expect over a year ago, how long this would last, what July 2021 would look like as a result. But the federal government has made it a point to try to respond to national housing advocates as well as governments, local and state, in terms of what some of the issues are on the ground. And an inability to contact or connect with landlords was a major barrier. And so in order to lower the barrier, this round was made so that, again, relief can go directly to tenants. As a second option, again, the preference and first option being direct payments to landlords.
Thank you. And right now, I just want to thank all of the landlords who came in the room and are asking some questions. And so the next question is, hi, as a landlord, I have over 500 tenants. Am I able to apply for all of them on their behalf, or do I have to wait for them to apply first?
So if you're a landlord, you can go ahead and pre-register at any time, hence this pre-registration period, right? So right now, this is the period where landlords should pre-register or begin pre-registering. Again, your time to register does not close at the end of this week. Just because the tenants portal opens on Monday, the registration period, which will no longer be pre-registration for landlords, the registration period will continue alongside the tenant application period, which is through September 10. But by virtue of the fact that we're allowing for pre-registration, yes, we encourage landlords to pre-register as quickly as possible. That way, if you're already pre-registered, just like you saw in the demo I just provided, you will be able to quickly be matched in the system once those tenants correspond, to tenants who correspond to the units that you're seeking relief for are in the system. So the quicker both submit, the better. So yes, if you're a landlord, please feel free to go in the system. You do not have to wait. The only thing that will happen is if you do register into the system, just like we saw in the demo with the first portion of the response, once I submitted all my information, it will just tell me that there are no units or properties that correspond with the information that I provided. And at that point, it would be obvious that tenants in your units have not submitted applications, all right? However, feel free to go in. We urge you all to go in as quickly as possible, as often as possible if you need to make any updates, corrections, or changes so that we can facilitate this process. This is unique to this round as opposed to previous rounds where we're not trying to reach out to landlords on the back end, but yet landlords have the opportunity to, again, using any mobile device, go ahead and register.
Thank you. Will landlords receive a 1099 for the relief to report on the 2021 taxes?
So that is a great question. And given that I'm not sure, but we have a great team here, I am going to actually defer and call on one of my colleagues here at EHD, or Economic and Housing Development, who actually is a senior manager in our Housing and Finance Division, who will be handling payments. And so EHD does have personnel. We have a team here locally who will be working in concert with our vendor in order to make sure that payments are made quickly. So Janine Hazard-Williams, great teammate, great colleague, and I think is better equipped to answer this question than I am. Janine?
Yes, thank you, Gerard. Yes, so to answer the question, landlords will be receiving a 1099 form. That form will actually come from the Department of Finance. Yes, so they will be receiving that form as well. Yes.
Thanks, Janine.
You're welcome.
You. And then the same, I guess, in reverse, if landlords is unresponsive and funds go to the tenant, would they receive a 1099?
That question I'm not sure about. So we can probably put that into the website,
Right.
but right now I'm not sure about that question. So I don't want to give misinformation about the tenant, but we can, put that question on the frequently answered question website. So yeah, at this time, I can't answer that one.
Thanks, Janine. And that just reiterates the fact that we want to make sure that we can be a resource. And so if there are questions that we can't answer, we'll make sure that we follow up, make sure that those questions are provided at the newarkcovid19.com page. So thanks. That's a question we didn't necessarily have the answer to, didn't necessarily anticipate, but as a result of this engagement, we can make sure that we get an answer. Thanks.
Indeed. And we have another landlord question. Thank you so much for the landlord questions. I am a landlord with multiple scatter sites. Do I have to register each individual address?
The answer to that is yes, because there will need to be an accounting for each unit. So yes, you may be a developer, but again, the relief is for the renter. And so we need to be able to confirm which units need the relief, right? If you own multiple properties throughout the city, it may not necessarily be that everybody needs a relief that comes with this program or is even eligible. And so therefore, each individual property must be registered. If you take note and go back to the demo that I provided, at one point I had to enter the specific unit number. So not only the address, but also specific units in order for us to be able to match those tenants with landlords. But yes, even if you're a landlord, you have multiple properties, although I only entered one for the purpose of this demo, you would enter each of the properties, their addresses and their unit numbers for each of the properties that you're seeking relief for, along with the rental ledger, right? Because there has to be an accounting for each specific unit that you're seeking relief for. So yes.
Thank you. What if my tenant refuses to participate?
Yeah, the whole purpose of this is, again, to provide housing stability for the tenant. We know currently that there's a eviction moratorium, and so we're trying to help help intervene and provide resources all we can so that we can greatly reduce the number of evictions that will be necessary. This is a tenant-driven program and opportunity, which is why the tenant is necessary in order to make this happen. So unfortunately, we will not be able to receive relief if you as a landlord are seeking relief, but the tenant is not. Again, we hope that this is not the scenario in many cases, but going all the way back to the landlord agreement, where one of the points is that you'll do your due diligence and you'll work with tenants. We hope you're able to open up the lines of communications so that this relief can be facilitated.
Thank you. And if the process is done correctly, let's say the landlord registers, the tenant registers, everyone gets approved, how would both parties be notified that, for example, if they're approved, the tenant will find out that they're receiving the funds, and vice versa, that how would the landlord know that everything will be paid up to date? Right.
So our vendor will make sure that both tenant and landlords, assuming that both apply correctly, everything goes in the system properly, that they are notified upon that match happening. And so it's a great question, because we don't necessarily need to be inundated with calls and inquiries, because you will receive automated notice. As you took a look at me walking through the demo, at just about every stage, I received an almost automatic email notification. So that I could confirm that I was successful in completing each stage of the process. And of course, the all-important part of this process, which is payment, which is what this all comes down to, will absolutely be a notification will go out regarding payments. So you receive automatic notifications There will be no need for you to call us to inundate us with email inquiries and calls, as you'll receive an automatic notification. And it looks like we're just about at like one minute, right?
Yes, so we are at 1 minute.
So
So
if I could just really reiterate the fact that we
Yes,
certainly
please.
appreciate landlords submitting questions to the one that we weren't able to answer. We'll make sure that we get back to you with a response as quickly as possible via the newarkcovid19.com website. I can't stress to you how many questions can be answered by going to that website as a reference. At this point, everyone can go there, including tenants. There's information there for tenants at newarkcovid19.com, although your application has not gone live yet. Again, the application goes live on Monday, July 26th at 9 a.m. And then that evening at 7 p.m., we will have a how to apply session that evening for tenants, the same way we just had for landlords. And so you will have those resources. One last thing I want to make note of as well is that tenants will also have as a resource the opportunity, the option, the ability to get in-person assistance at community-based organizations in the event that they just cannot access the application for whatever reasons. But again, they have access as well to newarkcovid19.com, to the call center, as well as community-based organizations. And both this event and the event on Monday for tenants will also be recorded and stored so that people can go back to this as a point of reference. And so I just want to thank you all at this point. I know you're going to thank folks, but I want to thank folks too. As you see, hopefully you can see that we're working diligently behind the scenes in order to make sure we facilitate payments much faster than previous rounds and get this much needed relief out to our residents. I know the mayor, the deputy mayor, the administration and EHD are all committed to making sure that this is a streamlined process in order to get the assistance to Newark residents and landlords that they need and deserve.
Thank you so much. And so at this time, our session for the landlord pre-registration session has come to an end. We would like to thank our Honorable Mayor S.J. Baraka, the Economic and Housing Development Department, and all of our partners for making today possible.